Nathaniel Howe had been a Grey Warden for 20 years. Most wardens don't live anywhere near that long. Whether his was a case of luck or skill depended on who you asked. He took his joining shortly after the Fifth Blight, during a crisis in which the Darkspawn were beginning to behave unlike they ever had before. Since that conflict came to a close, he traveled all over Thedas, from Orlais to Rivain to even the Anderfels. But his heart remained in Ferelden, in the Arling of Amaranthine. That would always be his home. And now, his home was on fire. Hey everyone, I'm Cole from the Kingdom, and I just had an idea for what I was going to write as fanfiction, but as I started writing it, I realized it should probably be an official novel. Is BioWare gonna take this idea? Probably not, but maybe. Stranger things have happened. Are they going to ask me to collaborate on it? Even less likely, but a boy can dream. So as you noticed at the start there, this is about Nathaniel Howe during the events of the Veilguard. Here's what happens. Nathaniel Howe, Warden Commander of Ferelden, embarks on a quest to reassemble the Grey Wardens and their allies before Ferelden is consumed by the Blight. So that's the logline. Before I get into a more detailed explanation, I want to talk about the advantages of writing this at all. I genuinely believe this story gives the writers, whoever's doing it now, the chance to explore unanswered questions Veilguard left us with, as well as set up the future of Thedas and explore its past. The first major opportunity is a chance to catch up with some great characters. The main plot of this book would center on Nathaniel reassembling the Awakening Companions, minus Anders and Justice, but it also gives us the wonderful opportunity to see a bunch of others. Now this of course would follow BioWare's canon, can't really consider player choice too much in novels. Like Wynne and Shale showed up in Asunder, which was a great book, my favorite of the DA novels. But it's implied that even if Wynne or Shale was dead, the adventure with Rhys and Cole and everyone still happens. I kind of think of it like the early Arrowverse time travel. They went off the rails later, but early on it was time wants to happen. And major events would still take place even if the details change. Whether Alistair is king or a warden, he still goes on the adventure with Varric to find his father. That kind of thing. So yeah, setting the game in Ferelden gives us the chance to see not only what's been going on with the Awakening Companions, but also, say, King Alistair, Arl Eamon, maybe have a cameo from Lanaya with the Dalish? The Dalish were supposed to get land after the Blight, but that apparently went poorly. So in any event, we can still catch up with them and see what happens. And yeah, it ignores the werewolf choice, but whatever. These are all just ideas anyway. Would also be cool if we saw a Naren the Healer. Tom Rainier was in the Free Marches, so can't have that. I think the Hawk sibling went north, so we can't have that. Yeah, Hawk said they left when the Wardens started acting strangely, but that's... I'm not going to talk about that here. Let's just say this book gives us the chance to clear up some confusion, not just from Veilguard, but also Inquisition. Like the whole fake calling thing. I was under the impression it was all Southern Wardens, across Orlais and Ferelden, hearing the calling. But then, what about King Alistair? Do you think he maybe knew it was fake? Do you think he was in contact with the Ferelden Wardens and talked it out with them? And they withdrew rather than get involved with Clarel? I guess Leliana lost track of them, but what about Vigil's Keep and Soldier's Peak? Did she not check there? I wonder if she was in contact with Alistair. Whatever the case, this book gives us the chance to get it in canon. Okay, so Advantage 1 is to catch up with old characters we like. Advantage 2 is to clear up some confusion that Inquisition and Veilguard left us with. It would give us an on-the-ground illustration of what the Inquisitor only briefly describes. Advantage 3 is revisiting some locations from Origin. Brazilian Forest and possibly the ruins there. It'd be cool if Nathaniel goes to those ruins and finds the Dalish holding up in there as a kind of base during this crisis. The Grand Oak fighting Darkspawn along with the Sylvans like Ents fighting Orcs would be awesome. Orzammar or Bonamar would be good. Could also stop in High Ever and see Fergus, maybe Crestwood, not the Hinterlands. I think we can all agree we've seen all there is to see in the Hinterlands. Kinloch Hold, otherwise known as Ferelden's Circle Tower. We can say the mages abandoned it, and that lets us get away with not saying whether the circles are still around. And it would be good to use as a refuge for civilians during the crisis, along with Soldier's Peak. And the final advantage I can think of would be new lore, or expanding on existing lore. Like I said, saying what happened to the Brazilian ruins and Ferelden Dalish, what the Wardens as an order have been doing in Ferelden since Awakening, and so on. Also, for anyone saying the way they handled the South in Veilguard was meant to be a hard reset, Listen, I'll talk about that in another video, and I agree the way they handled it was a pretty big disservice, but hard reset is kind of a powerful term for something we know so little about. So that's another thing this book can potentially clear up. How bad was it actually? At least in Ferelden. So now I'll explain a sort of rough outline for how I'm imagining this story happening. We start with Nathaniel evacuating civilians from Amaranthine. There we can explain how the Darkspawn managed to overtake Ferelden so quickly. The answer is... well, Gillenon made modifications to the Darkspawn, and they had more control over the Blight, meaning they could create more ghouls without most of them simply dying. Then it was basically a surprise attack from various Deep Roads entrances. We know there was one in Gwarin, and there was a fissure in Amaranthine. If they attacked fast enough and used more of those Blight growths, yeah, I could see this being horrible. No one ever talks about it, but at any given point on the surface of Thedas, there are thousands of Darkspawn under your feet. A mile or two down, sure, but yeah, it's unsettling. And starting in Denerim is tactically a great idea. Surprise attack on the largest city and seat of the king before the country even knows what's happening. Then assembling a horde down in the Kokari Wilds again to, regroup. So anyway, we get a quick explanation of how Amaranthine and Denerim scrambled to evacuate, probably catch up with King Alistair while we're there. While the king's forces and refugees run to Soldier's Peak and High Ever, Nathaniel heads to the Brecilian Forest for support from the Dalish. There he'll encounter Vallana. I shipped them so hard, so I want to say they had a thing, but they broke up and now it's weird. But they still have feelings for each other and maybe they'll work through them, before the calling takes them. But the Dalish are struggling too as the Blight invades the forest. This also gives us a great opportunity to see how the Dalish reacted to the news about the Evanuris. I imagine the Inquisition, specifically whatever Dalish clans were allied with them, would have spread the word after Trespasser. I don't know what proof they had, but here's a great opportunity to explain that, and how long it took. So Nathaniel and Vallana head back north to rally a defense, and find that Antom warships prevent any evacuation by sea, so they're kinda screwed. I guess some could head to these islands here, so that helps. So we'll say about half of Ferelden's forces are at High Ever, and the other half is at Redcliffe, and like I said, the former Circle Tower. Places like West Hill and South Reach also have to be accounted for. Oh yeah, we could also have some mention of the Silver Order. That would be cool. So, Oghren. Yeah, listen, you couldn't get away with writing this character the same way today. It's kind of amazing they got away with it at the time. You could say he stayed on with the Wardens on the surface and so was with Nathaniel from the start, or he returned to Orzammar, but I don't know what you'd want to do with him. Honestly, I'm thinking he dies in this book. We could show his son if you want to. Maybe he followed in his father's footsteps and became a Warden. Definitely show how Oghren softened as he raised his kid. Oh, speaking of kids, it would be cool to see Amathine grow up to be a Warden. Not more than a cameo, but yeah. So next, Nathaniel and company head to the Deep Roads to get support from the dwarves, but they're suffering too. We find Sigrun is a commander of the Legion of the Dead. Her experience with the Wardens, as well as her ability to sense Darkspawn, make her a great commander for them. So that's how we get Dwarven support to Ferelden. We could also encounter some of the awakened Darkspawn and or a new Sidereal Magister, but that gets complicated. Oh, should totally have a Broodmother fight. We'll probably never get them in the games again, so the books are our best chance for that. So yeah, Nathaniel reassembles his team, returns to the surface, and holds out against the advancing Darkspawn. Could also explain more of feeling something new calling the Blight besides the Elven gods. They touch on that in Veilguard, but it would be good to get perspective from other Wardens on what it feels like. As for what the climax of the book would be, Nathaniel probably finds some kind of weapon to save Ferelden. I'm just spitballing here, but maybe have another one of those weird creatures like the Sikorax from Tevinter Nights. Emmerich mentions creatures in the Fade that aren't demons, I think. Tie something in with the Devouring Storm or Executors? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one of the other Magisters helps? Or even the Architect? Not really feeling that one for this book, but maybe. Or the Awakened Darkspawn form an army of their own to help? Yeah, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Maybe get Volta and the Titan involved? I wonder if they could just crush the Darkspawn in the Deep Roads. Let me know what you think. So that'll about do it. This video, I honestly don't know how it turned out. I feel like my thoughts were kind of all over the place, but hopefully you could follow. Let me know what you think of my ideas and what you want to see next. I have more ideas for Dragon Age stories if you want to hear about them. So that's it for now, my friends. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like, and remember, Tala Nadas.